In today's episode, we will address the topic, are you triggered by your mother? Welcome to Dare to Be Conscious, the podcast that gets you to change anything with ease. I'm Ruby Pichel, and I'm your host. Are you triggered by your mother? Are you triggered by your mother is the conversation we're going to have today. A mother-child relationship can be very intense. And unfortunately, not everybody can say they have a good relationship with their parent. This title mentions the mother, but of course, this can be said about the father too. There are deep-rooted beliefs in our society about how to behave towards your mother and father. Like the phrase you hear, even in the case when you have no contact with one or both of your parents, well, whatever happens, she's still your mother. That one could have someone triggered, or at least have you frown to get some kind of understanding of the meaning of it. Now, let's dive into this, and I'd like to offer you my point of view about a few different elements. Let's start with how breaking energetic cords will set you free. And you not choosing is a choice too. And what if the trigger is actually a gift? I was wondering where I should even start with this topic, because again, this is not a small topic. A relationship between a mother and daughter brings up topics like generational curses, energetic cords and entanglements, trauma, abuse, and so much more. Let's just say if you have a complicated relationship with your mother, there are many layers you have to go through if you haven't already. And when you think you're there, you still have some to go. Not to disencourage you. As a matter of fact, this conversation is meant to encourage you that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. However, we are here for a reason. And some of us are here to finally bring an end to curses that have been in families from generation to generation. And you didn't take on an easy task. But that's only because you have the credentials. Sometimes things in life are not easy because you're not here to solve the easy task. You were chosen to solve the matters others have not been able to solve. Not able or not willing. Different discussion. Let's stick to not able. But you are, and you are willing. Oh yes, you were. Before you came to planet Earth, you saw the task at hand and you knew you had the credentials. And you decided that you would take another trip down to Earth and fix this. I'll do it. I've done it before and I'll do it again. There's just one minor detail. When we incarnate, we forget. On Earth, we get in a state of amnesia and we don't remember where we came from or what we came here to do. That's why newborns have that look on their faces like, where am I? And depending on the mother, they immediately feel safe or not. Now, let me tell you about a recent episode with my mother. It was the day before Mother's Day, and my children were with their father that weekend. We're not together anymore, but we found a great way in raising our kids. So he asked me if I had any plans for Mother's Day and if I wanted to take the kids. So I replied, no plans, but I would like to take them with me to my mother for a visit in the afternoon. Now, I didn't plan this, but I never do on Mother's Day. In my opinion, you don't plan Mother's Day. You just visit your mother like every year. So, not much later, I received a text from my mother saying she heard from my daughter we would come over for Mother's Day, but she made other plans. She had a friend of her coming over, and she couldn't have us over. And as flexible as I am, I said, no worries. Every day is Mother's Day, so have a great time with your friend, and we'll see each other later this week. Enjoy your day. And then there's this thing called awareness. That afternoon, I became aware of an emotion. I couldn't really tell what it was, but it wasn't comfortable. So I used my regular tools to deal with thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are heavy or not mine, but nothing worked. My body was still aware of something, and it was giving me information in a way that I could not ignore it. And at some point in the afternoon, I opened my Facebook feed, and the first post I saw was one of my sister, the sister who is angry with me and doesn't want to see me. And she was at a festival with my mother. Now, I'm okay with the situation where my sister does not want to hang out with me. You know, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. But what I realized at that moment is that I was upset. I was upset because my mother lied to me. And it wasn't the first time. I've experienced this before. There were some other occasions, but I didn't really care. But this time, I could sense that I was really upset. And not only upset, but it made me feel unworthy. I was not even worthy of the truth. I honestly don't care what she does with her life, and with or without my sister. I also don't care if she chooses to live in lies. That's also a choice. What I do care about, and this is something that I'm aware of that I am allowing, is for her to pull me into those lies. There's no point in lying to me in the first place, because when you function from space, light, and truth, lies will always be revealed. And that happened here as well. But apart from what happened, I noticed that I was still allowing her to make me feel unworthy. Cognitively, I could still perceive my energy, and I could see my value. I could see my worth and what I'm capable of. From that place where I could observe that, at the same time, I could observe that in those 10 seconds, I was choosing to feel unworthy. And when you become aware of what it is that you were choosing, you can choose something else. So when I became aware that I was choosing to feel unworthy, it allowed me to change it, but not before I indulged in it. I allowed myself to feel that emotion. It came to the surface because I wanted to leave. So I allowed that energy, that emotion to move through me and leave my space. And that choice, the choice to let it come up and leave me, cleared up the space. I decided not to confront her with the situation, because that is what people usually do, right? They confront someone's behavior. I decided to confront her with truth. I showed her the Facebook post, and I told her there's no reason to lie to me about this. Of course, her first reaction was to defend and explain, with more lies, of course, but I didn't react. I was not choosing from a space of blaming or defending. I was choosing a space of truth. And she was wrestling in the space of blaming and defending, and I allowed her to choose that space. I just wasn't there with her. I was consciously choosing another frequency, the space of light, peace, and truth. And 2 days later, it was her birthday. And I couldn't ignore this. I mean, I could, but that was not what I was willing to choose. And I decided to send her a different kind of birthday message. And it went like this: Mom, today is your 74th birthday, a respectable age, and I hope you will be around for many years to come. Perhaps an age to consider healing from the past. Acting like the past never existed does not heal wounds. Time does not heal wounds. Only looking past experiences in the eye and realizing it's only a burden you don't have to hold on to can make it go away. Looking past experiences in the eye and realizing they might have caused some damage, but you're still standing, heals wounds. Isn't it about time? And she responded with gratitude. Now, my mother and I have had a complicated relationship. Never a bad one. It wasn't bad at all. But there was so much going on underneath the surface, and she was keeping me small. Because if I would be the greatness I truly be, she would have to choose it too, because we were so entangled from previous lifetimes. And she was not willing to choose her greatness. So unconsciously, she did everything in her power to keep me on the same level. And this manifested as me never feeling good enough, never feeling worthy of love, etc., etc. And of course, this also came to the surface in all my interactions and relationships, in love, friendships, work relationships. That was fun. A few years ago, I broke the energetic cord with my mother. I was actually doing this session with a facilitator to break the cord for a relationship I was in at that time, a very complicated one, and I heard breaking the energetic cord would help the situation. And when I mention energetic cord, most people think it's a good thing. They think it's a beautiful connection that binds us together. It does, but not in a good way. Energetic cords are limitations. Just imagine you are attached to someone with a real cord. Yes, that cord is very long and can stretch, but you are attached. And when you're standing next to each other and you have a very long, stretchy cord, you're fine. But you never only stand next to each other. We also live our lives. We go to school, to work, we travel, we have other relationships, and we hang out with other people too. We walk around, we get into our cars. One walks around a building while the other drives over a bridge and comes back taking a tunnel. Just imagine that cord is still attached to both of you. And then imagine there's not only one cord. And you are most certainly attached to more than one person. Feeling suffocated yet? During that session, I became aware of this energetic bond with my mother. And it wasn't just the cord that was attached to me and her. You know the roots of an old tree, where you see many roots overlapping each other, entangled even? This is what our cord looked like. And she was holding me at my left leg. She had both of her hands attached to these countless cords that were wrapped around my left leg. And when I was ready to cut that cord, she wouldn't let go. Nope, she wouldn't let go. She was holding on to it like her life depended on it. So I had to plead with her. I told her, I'm not going anywhere. I promised to stay, but she had to let go of me. Please let go of me. And finally, she did. The roots came loose, and I could feel them being pulled through my whole body. And then she stood there with the roots in the shape of my leg. Quite a funny picture now that I look back at the situation. And then there was another magical thing that occurred while I was breaking the energetic cord with my mother. After cutting the cords, immediately after, it was like the ground opened up right under my feet. Like a hatch just opened up, and I was about to get sucked in. And at that exact moment, the exact moment I was going to get sucked into the hole, I felt someone grab me. And this was Archangel Michael. This was my first experience with Archangel Michael, by the way. And he had his arms around me, and he wasn't about to let me get sucked into that hole. And that hole in the ground represents the vacuum that we are all in when we live in the lies of this reality. Breaking the cords allowed me to literally cut myself loose from the people that are not willing to let go of the attachment of this reality, this deep programming in the low frequency that basically caused by dimming our light. And when people are not willing to shine their light or raise frequency, become more conscious, come closer to God, whatever you want to call it, and you are energetically attached to them, you will not be able to get out of the space that I call low frequency or shadow. And because of the cords, it will remain a constant back and forth until you become aware of the cords and see they are limiting you in your choices. You choosing to become more conscious many times requires another choice first, like in this case, cutting cords. And again, to many people, this sounds like breaking connections. Well, let me be very clear. Breaking bonds does not equal breaking connections. And this also doesn't require you to take action and end a relationship, like in my case with my mother. It did, however, lead to a direct breakup of the romantic relationship I was in, but that's a whole other story. Breaking energetic cords allows you to make choices that are not bound by limitations. It allows you to a place of infinite choices and a space where you get to be the conscious leader that shows others that they have a choice too. And being stuck in the mud of old attachments, well, that's not helping you to be in another space. And that's a choice too. Maybe not the smartest choice, but it's a choice. So what else can you choose? So after cutting the cords a few years ago, it created so much space for me, and my life changed so much. Not only did my relationship with my mother change, but I changed. I allowed myself greater freedom. And choosing leads to more choices. And when you finally get in the flow of conscious choosing, a whole new world opens up. And when I say choosing leads to more choices, I can tell you about recent awareness. Now, we can choose in 10-second increments. Not that we do that, but we can. And when you practice I am presence and you become aware that your choice creates your reality, you also get to find out we have so many choices that are available to us. And that when we don't choose, that's a choice too. But most of the choices we make are unconscious choices. Just see it as a highway where choices pass by every 10 seconds and you don't even see them. And you just keep choosing what you've always chosen without consciously knowing that you've chosen it. Only when you become aware of the choice and that the choice has created a certain reality, only then can you consciously make another choice. And we, as a consciousness, have made so many unconscious choices. And if we don't become aware of them, we will not choose something different because we are not aware it is our choice that created it. So how many other choices are you allowing to pass by because you are choosing to be unconscious of your choices? Let me ask that one again. How many other choices are you allowing to pass by because you are choosing to be unconscious of your choices? And as a result of that, you are not choosing to be or do that could actually change the entire world. Well, okay, let's start with your life, and then you can change this world. Same process. Now, the title of this episode is, Are You Triggered by Your Mother? Your mother is your mother for a reason. You've chosen to live on planet Earth, and the only way to get here is through your mother's birth canal. Women are the portal to life on Earth. Claim, own, and acknowledge it, lady listeners. That means that there was already a relationship on a soul level with your mother. And unless you get very, very conscious with relationships, the relationship will be limited by all the projections and judgments that you both have created over the course of time. Now, the cords do not strengthen the relationships. It just limits and hinders them. So if your mother brings up emotions for you, perhaps she makes you frustrated, insecure, you never live up to her standards, or you are the best daughter in the whole world and you can never do anything wrong because you always do everything right. Well, everything that is, let's destroy and uncreate it, right, wrong, good, bad, papakanishes, boys, poets, and beyonds. Whatever emotion comes to the surface, it's coming up because it wants to leave. An emotion is not good or bad, positive or negative. An emotion is just an emotion. And because we have long, deep ties with our mother, she will be able to trigger those emotions that nobody else is able to trigger. Don't see it as a bad thing or something you have to make right. The game of life on Earth is about shifting the evolution of consciousness, and an element of that game is releasing emotions that keep us in low frequency. And people are very good at holding on or pressing down emotions that we don't like to feel. And the whole point is setting the emotions free so we can shift our frequency. And one of the biggest gifts that you and your mother decided to be for each other is giving each other experiences so you can release those emotions to shift in frequency and nail this game we call life on Earth. The sooner you release emotions, the faster you shift. But no, you choose to hold on to them. You prefer to keep them tucked in where you think you don't feel it. It's just energy in the body that shows up in all kinds of ways. And don't be surprised if the body is out of balance. You can always go to a doctor and ask for something stronger if a painkiller doesn't work. Let's just keep suppressing those feelings and emotions, shall we? Because it's too scary to face them. Well, if it really doesn't kill you, will it actually make you stronger? And isn't keeping it inside slowly killing you? Well, I know my mother is doing everything to hold on to her emotions. She didn't just store them. She keeps them in a safe with a very secure lock. The fear of what these emotions will do to her is much stronger than the will to overcome. And she would rather, and this is on an unconscious level, of course, she would rather live a life that is limited than facing the emotions out of fear of what these emotions would do to her. And this almost becomes discrimination of emotions. We only allow what makes us feel good. It's not the emotion's fault you're afraid of it. An emotion is just an emotion. It's there because you created it or you took it from somebody else and you stored it, tucked it away safely. And every time the universe sends you an experience, a chance to set this emotion free, you get upset with the emotion and tell it not to move. You tell it to better not show itself because you don't like the way it feels. But all the emotion wants to do is leave, and you won't let it. And of course, all of this doesn't only apply to my mother. So, what if being triggered by your mother, or anyone else for that matter, is actually a gift? An experience offered by the universe so you can release the emotions that are coming up. Humans are like walking containers. Like these, imagine yourself being a glass container holding water, but the water is filthy, it's unclear. So we're like ticking time bombs. We've been picking up all these emotions, and most of them are not even ours, and we stored them in our container. And the universe is like a mirror, and it just reveals to us what we are holding inside our container. So then it gives us an experience that will allow the emotion to come to the surface so that we can send the emotion back to the universe. And then the universe will give us more experiences until the container is empty and we are clear, free of energies that don't belong in our container. And we get to move through life with ease, joy, and glory. And by exercising all of this, we get to be an example for all the other stuffed containers to empty and clear out. And we can all walk around like clear, clean, and healthy containers, just like we were created to be. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. And if there's a topic that you would like me to address, just reach out to me, and then I can take it with me for new episodes. And the next time we'll talk about, is consciousness difficult or are people just lazy? If you want to be reminded when there's a new episode, subscribe to my podcast, connect with me on social media. The links are in the show notes. And if you have a question about this episode, just connect with me and send me your question. Thank you for your choosing in the world. You matter, and I love you. Bye-bye.